Hello everyone, Tersile. So I'm here with another chapter from economics of class 9, and this is the last chapter of economics, and it is food security in India. So before we go through this chapter, let's recall a few things that we have already learned in the last session when we discussed about poverty as challenge. So in the last session we learned about the meaning of poverty and the indicators of poverty. We also came across social exclusion, and we discussed about the vulnerable groups, and at the same time we also learned about how poverty can be eradicated and the government's effort in order to eradicate the poverty, where we came across lots of schemes, right? So whatever we have learned so far in the previous sessions will going to help us to understand this chapter more effectively. So without wasting much time, let's see what we have in this session. So first we will do the introduction part, then we'll run to what is food security, after that why food security, and we'll discuss about food security in India, then public distribution system, current status of public distribution system, and at the end we will discuss about the role of cooperatives in food security. All right, so what do you mean by food security? First of all, so we need to understand, right? See, the air which we breathe in order to survive, and it is similar to food security, and the food itself is also one very important factor. And at the same time, it is not only we are talking about getting 2 squares of meals per day, but we are talking about more than 2 square meals per day. That means it includes the required amount of nutrition, right? So when we try to learn about food security and its meaning, a situation that exists when all people at all the times have physical, social and economic access to sufficient, safe and nutritious food that meets their dietary needs. So it is very important. So when we discuss food security, we need to remember that there are certain dimensions, okay? So there are 3 dimensions of food security. The first one will be availability of food crop or food. Then we have accessibility. Then we have affordability. So availability means, right, we have it includes the production of crop in a year in the country and import of food grains and whatever is kept as a stock from previous year. Combined we call it availability, right? So availability, it means, right, people can access, right, because there is a required amount of food crop is available for the population. So if we talk about India with such a huge population, right, so then we have accessibility. That means food is within the reach of every person. So that means it has to be accessible for every people or every citizen of the country. Then third one is affordability. That means an individual has enough money to buy sufficient, safe and nutritious food. Otherwise what happens is they will end up like suffering from hunger, right, starvation. Then we have famines and all, right? All right, so food security is ensured in a country only if there is ample of food grains available for everyone, right? Enough food is available for all the person have the capacity to buy food of acceptable quantities. Then we have there is no barriers on access to food. It somehow becomes a very, let's say, a right of a population, right, to have easy access on food. Then we'll talk about food insecurity leads to. So far we have been discussing about what is food security, right, and why we need it, right? So if let's say food insecurity leads to, that means like what happens if there is no food security, right? So what will happen or what will come up? So in that case we need to remember starvation will come up, right? Suffering or death caused by the shortage of food, yes, very obvious. Then famine, leading to famine, right? A wider spread of death due to starvation, and epidemic. So here we need to remember that epidemics are the diseases, right? As the saying goes, once when there was like Black Death in Europe, There used to be a saying that right now I'm having my lunch with my family and I'll have my dinner with my ancestors. So there were some sayings during the widespread of epidemics like plague in Europe. So calamities and contaminated waters and decaying food. So if we need to talk about famine in India, then we will be taking example of famine that took place in Bengal in the year 1943. So most of the people, they criticize the policy of Churchill, right? But that was the particular year or the time when most of the food crops or food grains were exported or let's say supplied to the armies who were in war, leaving the very population of the country to starve. Okay, and like lakhs of like people died in the Bengal famine. All right, so who are food insecure? So we need to understand, if we are talking about food insecurity, then who are the section of the community they are food insecure? So in that case, we can categorize it into two parts. The one is rural and one is urban. So if we talk about rural, then we will be, let's say, discussing more about this section of the people who lies in a food insecure. Landless people, traditional artisans, self-employed workers, homeless and beggars, ill-paid workers. And if we talk about urban areas, then casual labor market, where they during the whenever there is a construction work, they get employed. Other than that, they normally gets like unemployed, right? And migrants, very important, right? And migrants also lies in this category. Women's, and a large proportion of pregnant and nursing mothers and children under the age of 5 years constitute an important segment of secure and food insecure population. So these are the particular group of people who lies in the insecure section or category of this spot. All right. So state-facing problem of food insecurity. So in India, right, being a very large country, and with a very diverse physiographic division, so what happens is, now see, there are certain states who are very, let's say, rich in terms of food grains, and there are certain states which are like running short of or deficit, so there are certain states, right, which we need to understand in India that they are lying in food insecurity category. So one will be Uttar Pradesh, eastern and southeastern part of Uttar Pradesh. We have Bihar, we have Jharkhand, Orissa, we have West Bengal, Chhattisgarh, parts of Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra. So these regions, right, particularly are, let's say, unable to produce surplus food crops, whereas at the same time, these are the region where there is a shortage of food production, food grain production. All right. Okay. So after this, like, we have like hunger, so what happens is, like, if there is a shortage of food, and it might lead to a stage of hunger, right? And hunger is the expression of poverty, as we have already discussed in a previous chapter when we were studying about poverty as challenge. So in hunger, we can categorize hunger into two sections. One is like chronic hunger, another one is we have seasonal hunger. So chronic hunger is a particular situation where people are unable to afford or to buy. They even don't have money to buy for their own survival. So that particular duration lasts longer as compared to the seasonal hunger. So chronic hunger mostly suffered by poor people, and basically because of like inadequate diet for a long time, so they are not getting proper diet and proper nutrition which their body requires, and it remains for a like longer duration of time, and mostly the poor people suffers. And at the same time, we have seasonal hunger, where we normally talk about those people, right, who gets employed for like short duration of time. Let's say like if we're talking about construction workers, then they get employed during the construction time, but soon after like construction is over, then they left like again with no jobs, right, and at the same time no money, and during that space of time, right, they are unable to, let's say, come up or fulfill their basic requirements in terms of food. So due to agriculture activities, rural region and urban areas casual workers, so he says very clearly that even in rural areas we have seasonal hungers, right? And that is mostly related with agriculture, because in agriculture what happens is like people are hired normally during the sowing season or during the harvesting season. So that's how we already studied in the previous session also. Wow. And in urban areas we have casual workers or casual laborers, right? When a person is unable to get work for an entire year, sometimes what happens is people, they normally, let's say, left without job for almost a year, right? And during that particular time, they, without having any other source of income, they face very difficulties, right? So we are talking about such a situation, and where we regard it as a seasonal hunger. So in this graph, you can see, that Global Hunger Index 2019, right? It shows where India lies in the rank. So out of 117 countries, right, India lies in 102 rank, and whereby like other neighboring countries like Nepal, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, they are like doing pretty well in terms of like hunger index. Wow. So if we need to if we talk about like 17 countries including Belarus, Ukraine, Turkey, Cuba, and Kuwait, they shares one of the top ranks in a GHI scores less than like 5. So here we can see it is very, very alarming stage for Indian government to come up with or to fight against hunger. All right. So after this we have a food security system. So we need to understand how does it works. All right. So in this one we can say that there are components of food security system. The first one will be buffer stock, and the second one is public distribution system. So from this images, right, I hope you can try to correlate between the buffer stock and the image. So when we say buffer stocks are normally the stocks which are procured by government from surplus of food grains, or the states which produces surplus food grains. And government, what they does is they stores it in the government granaries, and they use it whenever it is required. And let's say if there is any natural calamities, that's just like the way how we had experienced recently because of Amphan cyclone. So in the public distribution system, it deals with mostly the chain of shops, right, authorized by the government, especially the Food Corporation of India, to produce or to supply or to let's say facilitate the poor people or the people of the country with subsidized food grains. All right. So we need to understand buffer stock. So what do you mean by buffer stock? So buffer stock, it is a stock of food grains, namely wheat and rice, procured by government through the Food Corporation of India, FCI. So what government does is they normally buys the crop from those regions where there is a surplus production, and the government also use this stock to facilitate those deficit states of India, where there is very less cultivation, or less deficit, there is no surplus production, and at the same time whenever it is required in the future, let's say during the calamities and all. Okay. So after this, let's quickly go through how does it works, the public distribution. How does it works? Let's discuss about this one. So first, the farmer or the producer, and FCI maintains the buffer stock. So what FCI does is they provides minimum support price to the farmers before sowing season and the harvesting season. And in return, farmer sells their grain to the FCI. And FCI, what they does is further they distribute or allocate grains to the state government at the price issued by the central government. So state government, what they does is now they distribute those food grains to the fair price shop in different localities and districts. And the fair price shops are normally run by government, and it facilitates those section of the people as community who are poor and who are unable to buy food items or food grains at market price. So in this particular shop, they are given or sold the food crops at subsidized price. We will discuss about fair price shop in a coming session again. All right, so let's discuss about public distribution system. So it is a very important topic that comes up in this session, right? So public distribution system, we mostly talk about ration system, right? And it mostly focuses on those disadvantaged group of the society, right? And tries to facilitate them with the food grains at very low price. So public distribution system is a structure that is sponsored by government and includes chain of shops trusted with the work of distributing basic food and non-food commodities to the disadvantaged group of the society at very low price. So that means it is not necessary that public distribution system only distributes the food grain, but at the same time they also distributes at a very subsidized price, let's say non-food items such as kerosene, isn't it? Soaps, detergents. Okay. So then the public distribution system, which is known as which is also abbreviation is PDS, right? Evolves as a system of management of scarcity and for distribution of food grains at affordable price. So that means now the people, right, who are poor and who can't afford to buy food grains at a market price, now these are the people, or these are the section of the community who are facilitated by public distribution system. So we'll come to the requirements for procuring of such facilities. So in this one we need the ration card, ration card. So fair price shop or the ration shops are very popular in all over India, right? So these are the shops, right, which provides food crops or food grains at a very, very subsidized price. Imagine you are getting two rupees per kg of rice. Okay. So in order to exempt this facility, there are certain requirements, right? You need, most importantly, the ration card. So ration card can be different depending upon your economic situation or condition. As I have just taken one example, so for those people, right, who are deprived and who are totally economically backward, so they are provided with the yellow card, and they are they need to pay around they get 28 kgs of rice and 7 kgs of wheat completely free, because the government knows this particular section of community are deprived and economically backward, so that's why they are unable to come up with income, or let's say to buy the food grains at a market price. So government, right, provides them free of cost. Then we have a second category of which is pink, for indigent section of society. So what they get is each member of family to get 5 kg of food grain completely free again, right? And another one, last second, is blue, those who get state government subsidies. So what they get is 2 kgs of rice at 2 rupees per kg. Imagine, right? So government is trying its best to cope up or to, let's say, fight against hunger, right? And the last one, for those who is in general category, so they get rice and wheat, 8 and 90 paisa per kg, 6.70 paisa per kg. So here what we need to understand is the ration cards are also differentiated, or there are different categories of ration cards. So some have some people, they enjoy the facilities of, let's say, getting more food crops at very less price, and some of them are totally, let's say, free of cost, depending upon the condition of the particular family. And if we need to understand the current status of public distribution system, then we have PDS, public distribution system, which was like till up to 1992. It was a universal where people get wheat 2 rupees per kg, and like rice for 2.89 paisa per kg. Wow. Then later on it got 1992 there came a revamped public distribution system where it totally focuses towards backward blocks, and where they, let's say, provided 20 kg of food grains, right? Wheat, let's say 2.80 paisa per kg, and rice at 3.77 paisa per kg. So here you can see a government is trying its best to cope up with certain situations, or to facilitate those deprived section of the country population. Right? Then after that, in 1997, we have like targeted public distribution system where it primarily focuses towards poor and non-poor. Right. So 35 kg of food grain. So when we say poor and non-poor, then it has certain categories already. So we have below poverty line where people gets like wheat 2.50 paisa per kg and rice 3.50 paisa per kg. And you have APL, above poverty level, right? So where you get like wheat of like 4.50 paisa and rice for 7 rupees. So then, as we have discussed in the previous session, Anyodaya Anna Yojana, which came up or introduced in 2000, which focuses towards the poorest of the poor, where they get, let's say, 35 kg of food grain like wheat for 2 rupees and per kg, and rice for 3 rupees per kg. And last one is APS, that is Annapurna Anna Yojana. So it is launched in 2000, and especially focusing towards indigent senior citizen, and it provides 10 kg of food grains free of course. So here we can see government is trying its best and cope up with the situation of hunger. Okay, so after this we have government schemes, as I have already mentioned before, just before the slides. We have PDS, Initial Public Distribution Scheme. Then we have RPS, that is Revamped Public Distribution Scheme. And the third one is TBDS, that is Targeted Public Distribution Scheme, System. All right. Then we have special schemes like Anyodaya Anya Yojana, which we have already discussed in a previous session. And we have APS, that is Annapurna Scheme, or Annapurna Yojana. Right. All right. So after this, we have the benefits of public distribution system. So when we look into what are the benefits, right, that public distribution facilitates the particular community, or let's say the less income people. Right. So moreover, it stabilizes the price of food grains. Yes, very obvious. Like, see, the people, right, who are deprived and who are very poor, who can't afford to buy any food grains at market price. So this particular system facilitates those people, right, so that they can also come up and they can buy the food grains. And the second one, it says makes food available at affordable price. So it's very obvious, as we have already seen in the previous slides, that how cheap it comes when it's distributed from PDS or ration shops. And then the third one, it says by supplying food from surplus region to the deficit one. So it's clear again, right? So government, what they does is like they buys the food crop from those region or those states where the surplus production takes place, and at the same time, whatever crop or whatever food grains that are procured from those regions are distributed to those regions of the country where there is a deficit production. And at the same time, government also saves it for the future uncertain, right? So let's say calamities, right? All right. So after this, we have benefits of a public distribution system. So when we say benefits, right, it is very obvious that a certain group of people, right, in community or in a country, right, they get facilitated by this particular system, right, because they are unable to buy food crop or food grains at the market price because due to their low income, right. So this particular system facilitates those particular people, right, to live in a dignity by, let's say, buying the food grains from public distribution system, where we talk about fair price shop and the ration shops, right? It says stabilizing price for food grains, yes. And second point, it says makes food available at affordable price. Very true. By supplying food from surplus region to a deficit one. So in this one, I would like to elaborate a little bit, right? So what happens is, see, the government buys the food crop or food grain from those region of the country where there is a surplus production. Let's say like Punjab, Haryana, right? So and right after buying from these regions, right, government, what they does is they stores it or they keeps it in like government granaries, and they use it or they supplies those product or crops or food grains to those deficit region of the country, such as Rajasthan, right? And it helps in combating hunger and famine. It's very true. Since the government is trying very hard to overcome such situations in the future, and at the same time, whatever grains that are procured from those surplus region is not fully utilized or not fully spent on those deficit region, but at the same time, government saves it for the future uncertainty. Right. So what happens is, during the natural calamities, what happens recently we witnessed the Amphan cyclones which hit Bengal, Bangladesh, Odisha. Right. So during such situations, government tries to facilitate those people who have suffered due to natural disasters. Next, it helps price sets to the poor household in mind. So government keeps it very simple, right? And government always thinks about those section of the community who are deprived and poor and unable to buy food crop in a given price or in a market price. So government sets the price by keeping in the mind of like poor household. So the last point says provides income security to farmers in certain regions. So at the same time, government, what they does is they provide minimal support price to the farmers, and that's how ultimately it also supports them, right? After this, we have the problems faced by PDS. So public distribution system has lots of drawbacks, right, which are not ultimately created, not occurred, but created due to the negligence and improper maintenance. Right? So first one is this problem of hunger still exists in many areas of India, as we have already seen and to witness from Global Hunger Index, that India lies in the 102nd rank as from 107 countries. And India is like much worse than like neighboring countries such as like Pakistan, Nepal, and other neighboring countries. So second point is a food stock in granaries often above specific levels. So at the same time, see what happens is like in government granaries, due to the negligence and due to the improper maintenance, what happens is those stored grains gets deteriorated, and at the same time, due to the moisture, it also gets damaged. Right. And the third point says deterioration in quantity of stored food grains kept for a longer time. So then we discuss about increase in MSP has led to the shift from coarse grain to wheat and rice production among the farmers. It's very true. The government itself is providing MSP to those farmers, right? And now the people and the farmers, they are focusing towards more towards, let's say, a cultivation of rice and wheat. And since the rice is water intensive crop, people, what they does is like they try to extract water from underground, so leaving the decrease in water level. So these are the problems that comes up when we talk about public distribution system. So now we will talk about role of cooperative in food security. So cooperative has been playing very important role in food security of India, or let's say our country. So if we need to talk about let's say the role played by cooperative, then we will be especially talking about the southern and western part of the country, and where the cooperative society set up shops to sell low price goods to the poor people. For example, out of, let's say, all the fair price shops running in Tamil Nadu, around 95 or 94% are being run by the cooperatives. So it's a very, very let's say important and prominent thing to do. And in Delhi, if we talk about let's say a famous brand that we normally very aware of. It's like mother dairy, right? And again, it is making a study in provision of milk and vegetables to the consumer at controlled rate decided by the government of Delhi. And another brand, as we have, let's say, Amul, very popular brand related to milk and milk products, which is based in Gujarat. Right. So Amul is another success story of like cooperative in milk and milk products from Gujarat. It has brought about, let's say, the white revolution. Though we have studied green revolution, which prominently or which deals with production and increasing the yield. But when we talk about white revolution, then it somehow tries or encourages people to, let's say, produce and deal with more of milk and milk related products. So these are the few examples of many more cooperatives running in different parts of the country, ensuring the food security of different sections of society. So similarly in Maharashtra, we have Academy of Development Science, which is called as ADS, and it has also facilitated a network of NGOs for setting up grain banks in different regions of the country, and especially in Maharashtra. And what happens is like ADS organizes training and capacity building programs on food security for non-government organizations, and as I have mentioned, grain banks, right? So grain banks are now slowly taking shapes in the different parts of Maharashtra. ADS efforts to set up grain banks to facilitate replication through other NGOs and to influence the government's policy on food security are thus paying rich dividend, and ADS Grain Banks program is acknowledged as a successful and innovative food security intervention. So yes, these are the roles that are played by the cooperative in India, and there are many more, right? So let's quickly out at the very beginning food security, and we try to know or learn about why do we need food security in India. And then we came across the dimensions of food security. Right, we talked about availability, accessibility, and affordability. After that, we discuss about who are food insecure, or in that we discuss about the laborers, landless laborers, right? The casual workers, the beggars, the homeless, the women, isn't it? Then after that, we discuss about hunger, and we came to know that hunger is an expression of poverty, where we have two categories. One is like chronic hunger, and another one is seasonal hunger, right? After that, we also discuss about food security system, where we talked about the components of food security system, where we learned about buffer stock and PDS, that is public distribution system. And after that, we discuss about the rationing system, how the process of rationings and how it facilitates the deprived section of the community or the population, right? And we also came across, let's say, APL, BPL, which stands like above poverty line and below poverty line, and the price which they need to pay, and the let's say food grains which they receive or they exempt from the PDS is differentiated as per the income of the particular population. Then we discuss about PDS, and the problems of PDS, the benefits of PDS, and at the end we discuss about cooperative and how important the roles are played by the cooperative in India. We talked about Tamil Nadu fair price shops. Then we discuss about Madhya Dairy in Delhi, and we have Amul in Gujarat. Then we have Academy of Science in Maharashtra, so we have like grain banks. So overall, with this we have come to the conclusion of this session. So I hope you have learned through this session, and yes, thank you very much, and everyone, and take care and stay safe.